Welcome to SandCity Sports. I am your host, the Cape Cod Kid, artist formerly known as Andre King, and we're back again to bring you all the sports and current events news stories that you need to know. Let's get it started. So we're going to start off with the NFL playoffs. We had two good games yesterday in the wild card round. In the first game, the Indianapolis Colts defeated the Houston Texans 21-7 in a game that featured two AFC South rivals, as the Colts jumped out to a 21-0 lead in the first two quarters and never looked back. In my view, Indianapolis dominated this game on both sides of the football, as the Colts offensive line allowed 0 sacks during the entirety of the ballgame. Even though J.J. Watt was second in the NFL in sacks to Aaron Donald, while the Colts defense sacked Deshaun Watson 3 times and held him to a QBR of 23.4. Meanwhile, Andrew Luck was 19 for 32 from the field, throwing for 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception with a QBR of 80.3. In a situation in which one talented team arrived on time and ready to go, and another talented team was missing in action. Folks, the Colts ranked 11th in the NFL in total team defense, followed by the Houston Texans at 12. And over the course of the season, you and I heard a lot more about Deshaun Watson and his dynamic playmaking ability and versatility than we did about Andrew Luck, who missed the entirety of the 2017 season. Yes, this game surprised a number of people, and first and foremost, the folks here in New England. Because based on this victory, the Patriots will not face off against the Houston Texans, whom they've beaten already this season and whose head coach was a former assistant, but will have to play the Baltimore Ravens or San Diego Chargers, two teams with more impressive victories on their resume and much greater momentum. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys defeated the Seattle Seahawks 24-22 in a game with numerous lead changes that saw big-time plays by not one, but both quarterbacks. As Dak Prescott was 22 for 33 from the field for 226 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown, and 1 interception with a QBR of 73.9. While Russell Wilson was 18 for 27 from the field for 233 yards, 1 touchdown, and a QBR of 70%. Seattle came into this game with the number 1 rushing attack in the NFL, but amassed only 73 yards total during the course of the ballgame, while Ezekiel Elliott on 1 week's rest rushed for 137 yards on 26 carries and 1 touchdown with 5.3 yards per attempt. This was a great ballgame where you have to give credit to both teams, as Seattle played the entire second half without their veteran and accomplished kicker, Sebastian Janikowski, and overcame costly defensive penalties down the stretch to lose by less than a field goal. So shout out to my friend and brother official Alex Barros on the Cowboys' victory. And we're all looking forward to another 2 great games today, where I'm picking the Chargers over the Ravens in Baltimore and the Bears to defeat the Eagles at home. Finally, in our NFL coverage, you might have heard that Antonio Brown has put himself 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster and on planet Earth after that. And I just want to commend the Pittsburgh Steelers, who were initially mum on the situation, but have since restructured Ben Roethlisberger's contract and began accepting offers for Antonio Brown. Point blank period, Antonio Brown is a talented wide receiver, and he did lead the NFL in receiving touchdowns with 15. But skipping the Steelers' last game, which was a must-win to keep their playoff hopes alive, was the final straw for this diva wide receiver. So I want to tip my hat to the Pittsburgh Steelers for finally having the wherewithal to tell this jack to hit the road. And speaking of folks who've been feeling themselves, you might have heard that LeBron James had a thing or two to say about his place in NBA history. Yeah, LeBron was on the set of one of his many great television productions and said that in his opinion, the Cleveland Cavaliers' victory over the Golden State Warriors in 2016 made him the greatest basketball player of all time. Alright folks, before we even get into the stat jazz on this wonderful topic, I have to say I respect Bron on this one for not holding his tongue, but telling folks how he really feels. A lot of times when put on the spot with questions like these, stars will defer and take the humble route. But LeBron decided to give everyone his deep down convictions on this question for once, and I respect that call through and through. But that don't mean I think he better than Mike though. So here's what the numbers have to say. We all know the championship tally, 6 for Mike, 3 for Bron. NBA seasons, 15 for Mike, 16 for Bron. Playoffs played in, 13 apiece. All-Star games, 14 apiece. MVP seasons, 5 for Mike, 4 for Bron. Finals MVPs, you already know, 6 for Mike, 3 for Bron, even though Kyrie should have got that 2016. All NBA first team selections, 10 for Mike, 12 for Bron. All NBA total selections, 11 for Mike, 14 for Bron. All NBA defense first team, 9 for Mike, 5 for Bron. All defense teams total, 9 for Mike, 6 for Bron. Defensive Player of the Year awards, 1 for Mike, none for Bron. Scoring championships, 10 for Mike, 1 for Bron. Steals championships, 3 for Mike, none for Bron. Rookie of the Year awards, you already know, 1 apiece. Career scoring average, 30.1 for Mike, 27.2 for Bron. Rebound average, 6.2 for Mike, 7.4 for Bron. Assist average, 5.3 for Mike, 7.2 for Bron. Steals average, 2.3 for Mike, 1.6 for Bron. Blocks per game, 0.8 apiece. By the numbers, to me, folks, it's not even close. And we have to remember Mr. Jordan played 3 seasons at North Carolina and missed 2 seasons after his father's passing and 2 more after an NBA lockout. So Michael's 15 could have easily been 20, and LeBron's 16 looks like it will be 20 plus. And so when Bron does reach that 20-year milestone, we can revisit this. But until then, the greatest of all time remains a one Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Moving to our NBA outlook, there is a show called The Amazing Race, and it should be canceled. And folks should instead be forced to watch Western Conference basketball. And they would have a much better viewing experience, guaranteed. The Los Angeles Lakers are 3 games over 500 at 21-18, and are yet the 8th seed in the Western Conference. The Utah Jazz are 500 at 20-20, and nonetheless 3 games out of the playoff chase. And the New Orleans Pelicans are 4 games under 500 at 18-22, and although they are the 15th seed, they are only 7 games or 1 winning streak away from playoff eligibility. And before we move over to the Eastern Conference, I want to remind you the Denver Nuggets are the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, followed by the Oklahoma City Thunder, then the Golden State Warriors. In the East, it remains a 5-team race for supremacy, and interestingly enough, at the end of that pack is the Boston Celtics. The Celtics are currently the 5 seed at 23-15, while the Milwaukee Bucks are the number 1 seed at 27-11. The Indianapolis Pacers have established themselves as the number 3 seed at 26-12, having the same amount of losses as the number 2 seed Toronto Raptors. And the Philadelphia 76ers are just 1 game ahead of the Celtics at 26-14, and are currently dealing with a situation that my team in Minnesota is happy to be rid of, as Jimmy Butler continues to go by the AB playbook and put himself before everybody else in every room he steps into. So there's great basketball across the association as we move towards the All-Star break, as the Eastern Conference remains a 5-team race, and the Western Conference remains a 15-team race. A few stories that I want to touch on in conclusion. A high school wrestler in New Jersey was forced to cut his hair in order to compete in a competition, in a story that fortunately went viral, thanks to a few conscientious spectators with smartphones. That official has since been suspended indefinitely, as this incident receives the attention it deserves. Case in point, I have been very fortunate to officiate youth and high school basketball for 10 years now. And in looking at this situation, it's important to recognize that there are rules in place in this sport related to the length of a participant's hair and acceptable accessories. The end-all be-all is this. In sports and in life, there is the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. Theodore Roosevelt once famously said, "The Constitution was made for the people, not the people for the Constitution." Whatever the rule on the books was, that official could have utilized more patience, perspective, and common sense to reach a more reasonable solution and better outcome for everybody. Next up, I want to give a shout out to Jay Billis and many others for highlighting the plight of Maori Davenport, a high school senior and elite prospect from Alabama, who has been declared ineligible by their athletics commissioner, Steve Ceravisi, for receiving benefits from USA Basketball along with the other elite players on the team, which none of them asked for. Banning this player for the season is clearly unreasonable given the circumstances and an abuse of power, and I want to credit the many leaders in the world of sports who have highlighted this story in hopes and expectation of a better outcome. And finally, I want to remember Penny Marshall, actress and director, who passed away in mid-December at the age of 75. Marshall was the director of Big, one of my all-time favorite movies, and a principal reason why the 80s were awesome, and also A League of Their Own, one of the most impactful sports films ever made. If anyone ever doubted the galvanizing impact of athletics to change people, institutions, and societies for the better, they should set aside some time and watch a league of their own and understand why everyone should be allowed to compete and strive for greatness.
Taking a little day trip?
No, Bob and I are driving home to Oregon.
You know, I really thought you were a ball player.
Well, you were wrong.
Was I?
Yeah. It is only a game, Jimmy. It's only a game, and I don't need this. I have Bob. I don't need this. I don't.
I gave away 5 years at the end of my career to drinking. 5 years. And now there isn't anything I wouldn't give to get back any one day of it.
Well, we're different.
Dottie, you want to go back home to Oregon and make 100 babies? Great, I'm in no position to tell anyone how to live. But sneaking out like this, quitting, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Baseball is what gets inside you. It's what lights you up. You can't deny that.
It just got too hard.
It's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great.
Folks, that's going to do it. Go ahead and comment, like, and subscribe as you feel the need. I am your host, the Cape Cod Kid, artist formerly known as Andre King. We want to thank you for tuning in to SandCity Sports, and we will see you here back again the next time.
Yes, we piece of souls do sedate ourselves. Just a number of us pain we feel. Yes, at times we do hate ourselves, but each day we try to retake ourselves. So yes, we piece of souls do sedate ourselves. Just a number of us pain we feel. Yes, at times we do hate ourselves, but each day we try to embrace ourselves. Yeah.